Hi all, welcome to Elisa's Notes. I am Minna Catherine John, second year BA English Literature student of KE College, Manor. Today we are dealing with the second module of Shapers of Destiny, the True BRITON. Henry I was the King of England from 1100 AD. He was the fourth son of William the Conqueror. He was an able reformer who determined to keep peace in the land. For this purpose, Henry I issued a charter in which he promised to keep peace in the land and redress the grievances of people. And this charter was the basis of Magna Carta, the Great Charter of Liberties. He was married to Matilda, who was the daughter of Malcolm III, the King of Scotland. This marriage united the Norman and Anglo-Saxon blood. Thus, the people of England and Normandy accepted Henry as their undisputed king. Henry faced an attack of England by his brother Robert of Normandy, who was supported by the rebellious Norman barons, led by Robert of Bellême, who was the Earl of Shrewsbury. The large number of people of England were on the side of their king. Henry defeated Robert of Bellême by destroying his castle, and this was the only rebellion that took place during the first years of Henry's reign. It was in 1106 Henry attacked Normandy and killed his brother Robert. Henry recalled Archbishop Anselm from exile. Anselm was a faithful and obedient servant of the Pope. The church was considered as the divine society by Pope when the Archbishop demanded that the king had nothing to do with the investiture of bishops. The king retailed as the bishops were the owners of land, they should pay homage to the king. This unfriendly situation persuaded Anselm to go into exile once again. Henry instituted the Great Council of Advisers, which was called Magnum Concilium, which was the precursor of the modern House of Lords in the Parliament. It consisted of great lords of the land, both secular and spiritual. There was also a council of ministers. Another reform of Henry's was the system of itinerant judges who travelled from place to place settling disputes and redressing grievances of the people. Thus it came into being the system of trial by jury. England was a favourite centre of trade and commerce as they had a strong government and general peace. By the Charter of London, King Henry issued the privilege by which they could collect the revenues of Middlesex. They were also granted the privilege of choosing their own sheriff and justiciar. Henry ruled for a long period of 35 years. The greatest tragedy in Henry's life was the death of his only son at sea. And Henry made his nobles to swear an oath of loyalty to his daughter Matilda, who was married to the court of Anjou. When the king died in 1135, the nobles didn't crown Matilda as queen. Next, we are going to see the reign of Stephen and Matilda. After the death of Henry I, the Magnum Concilium laid aside the oath of loyalty to Matilda and selected Henry's nephew, Stephen of Boulogne, as king. Matilda was unpopular with the people of England. Stephen was a brave soldier but lacked courage or diplomacy to check the barons. The strongest and worst among the barons was Geoffrey de Mandeville. His cruelty caused the early chronicle remark that it was a period when Christ and his saints slept. The years of Stephen's reign were 19 long winters when life and property were in danger. Matilda landed in England in 1141 with an army and made Stephen prisoner. She was made the queen but couldn't remain long. She had none of the abilities of her father and turned out to be a worse ruler than Stephen. She had to release Stephen in exchange for her brother, who was taken prisoner by Stephen's men. She managed to escape and returned to Anjou. Matilda's son Henry claimed the throne of England. He arrived in Wallingford Castle and with the support of powerful barons forced the king to sign the Treaty of Wallingford in 1153, by which Stephen could remain king until his death, and after that the kingdom would pass to Henry. Now we are moving to feudalism in England. The fall of Roman Empire led to anarchy and disintegration from which Europe saved itself by the feudal system. The feudal system was based on land ownership and the division of society into upper and lower classes. Land was the chief source of wealth and the lord was rich and powerful. The king leased out the land to the chief barons and dukes who came to be called the tenants who owned fully to the king. The tenants-in-chief were bound to provide the king with men and money, leased the land to other tenants who in turn provided money and men to protect themselves and the lord. Feudalism was not an invention of Normans. It was in existence in a looser form in England during the Anglo-Saxon times. In the Middle Ages, the normal unit of holding of land was the manor, which was the Norman name for estate. The manor lord was powerful as the king. All the land belonged to him, and the villeins who cultivated the land were his men. The lord paid villain no wages, but the villain had to pay the lord rent for cultivating in his land. The villain couldn't leave the land or do anything against the wishes of lord. There were people called serfs who were the set of workers who performed many jobs to the lord but had no land. There were also a number of freemen who owned their bit of land, who possessed legal rights and who could take decisions of their own, even they had to do some work on the lord's land. The lord's manor house was at the center of every village. The administration of justice for the whole village was carried out from the lord's manor, which concludes petty disputes and quarrels of the village. The villains lived in shacks which had barely a room. They enlivened their monotonous life by hard drinking. After having the drink, they would fall stupefied on the dirty pallets of straw without minding the cold, smoke, and discomfort. The lords protected the vassals and villains. The men and money came from the vassals themselves by obligation of loyalty. At times of war, the knights and soldiers formed an army and supported the lord. In this hierarchy, the class of nobles consisted of knights, barons, counts, dukes, and kings, keeping different degrees of subordination. The duties of vassals and subordinates were many. They had to attend the lord's court and help him in administering justice. They were obliged to give the lord a fee for holding the fief. They had to provide for the lord and his retinue when they passed through their property. They also provided military service to the lord. The manorial system lasted for about 3 centuries until the beginning of commodity production for the exchange of money wages. The Black Death and the Peasant Revolt of 1381 accelerated the progress of breaking up the manorial system. With this, I am concluding my session. I hope you liked the video. Thank you for watching.